Alright YouTube, today we're going to be doing a brand new gas tank install on the pink AE86 drift car. Wanted to go over first before we get into the whole swap of the new Spectre gas tank that I got through Rock Auto. Wanted to just do some pros and cons. This is actually a SR5 tank, but besides the internal differences, they're basically the same. So for visual reference, OEM GTS tank, Spectre, Rock Auto replacement GTS tank. There's some good things with this. Number one, it's a brand new tank. It's brand new, it's got no rust. It's been, according to Rock Auto, it's been sealed with a rust inhibitor so that it should not rust, at least anytime in the near future, which is great. It's a good deal. It was $130 shipped to my door. And it only took about like 3 or 4 days to get here, so that was awesome. The shape looks correct, so it looks like it's going to be a straight bolt-in deal, and it has the OEM rings here with brand new hardware and gaskets, so you can put your fuel pump bracket and your fuel level sender in it. Now the first thing you'll notice is that this tank is nice and shiny and looks like it's bare metal, whereas this has actually got an exterior coating on it. I wish this came coated. I actually bought 2 of these, so the other one I will probably coat with, I don't know, a bedliner material or something of the sort. But for now I want to get my car running and I want to clean the fuel system out and whatnot. So we're just going to go ahead and put this in as it is and see what we get. Now, the great thing about this is it is a GTS tank, so it does have the baffle inside for the fuel pump. However, the problem with that is there is a smaller wall in the baffle. There's a short wall, which tells me that under hard driving, quick turns, sharp turns, drifting, like on transitions or anything like that, you can have fuel sloshing out of the baffle, which kind of defeats the purpose of the baffle in the first place. The point of the baffle is to keep fuel surrounding the fuel pump. So if you have fuel sloshing out, it's not doing its job. There is 2 passages to bring fuel into the baffle, whereas on the OEM one, there's just 1 tube, which on one hand is good because you have fuel coming from both sides of the tank, but on the downside is they're very small, so I can see rust and dirt and deposits getting in there and clogging those passages, and then that baffle struggling to stay full of fuel. So that's another thing to keep in mind. Now we'll go into kind of more of the cons on this. Again, it's a $130 tank, so you can't be too upset, but I did notice that the filler tube neck here does not come out like it does on the OEM unit. The OEM unit, it's 6 bolts, 5 or 6 bolts, and it comes out, and I can get my hand in there, so I can put, pebbles or BBs or something in there to shake the tank and agitate it, get deposits out, and then get them out easily. Whereas these top areas here, there's a big lip, so it's really hard to get stuff out of. However, the lip isn't quite as bad on this tank, so that might not be as big of a deal, but still something to kind of keep note of. Lastly, the filler neck obviously doesn't come out, but there's a tube that runs in there, the filler tube. On the GTS tank, it comes in horizontally and lets fuel drop into the tank, whereas on the new tank, it actually comes down and then back up, which tells me it's always going to have fuel in it, which may give me problems at the gas station at the fuel pump trying to fill the tank. It might shut off pretty often because it's sensing that there's fuel at the top of the tank, when in reality it's just that little filler tube part. So that might be an issue. I might need to get like a 10-gallon fuel caddy for when I go drifting so I can fill that at the gas station and then use that to fill the car. We'll see. The biggest problem though I have with this tank is if we take a look at the OEM tank, you'll see that there is a drain plug here that if you take a 3/8 socket wrench, it'll fit right in there like it's a socket, and you can crack it loose and take this out. This allows you to drain the tank so that you can do a fuel pump swap. You can drop a tank and it only weighs like 8 to 10 pounds, which is great. However, this new tank doesn't have it. It just has a little stamped area where it would have been. So that means that if I ever have a fuel pump failure, I can't drain the tank. In my car, I have everything's hooked up to a switchboard, so I can force the fuel pump on, which means I can pop a line off the engine, turn the fuel pump on, and drain it into a bucket or a container or a caddy. But if I have a fuel pump failure, I can't do that. So the recourse would be take the plug out. I can't do that because there's not a plug. So that means if I ever have a fuel pump issue, I got to keep my fingers crossed that it happens while the tank is low. Which your number one reason for a fuel tank or a fuel pump issue is it runs dry. So, you know, take that with a grain of salt. But I would really like if they put drain plugs in these, because that really helps you out. Because if you do a fuel pump, you have no choice. You have to drop the tank on these cars. So, you know, if you have a fuel pump failure and you have 9 gallons of fuel in here, you risk damaging the tank by putting a jack underneath it when it's fully loaded and crushing it. So I don't like that. That's my biggest beef with this. But because it's only $130 shipped to my door, we're going to go ahead and put this in the drift car. You know, run some fuel through it, clean the injectors, put a brand new fuel pump in this, put a brand new fuel filter in the engine bay, and hopefully my fuel problems are done, and I can move on to other things like actually driving the car. So with that being said, I'll get these tanks out of the way. We'll get the car up in the air. I'll start draining fuel, and then I'll kind of you know, have you follow along step by step on how I do a fuel tank swap. If I remember correctly, it takes about 2 hours, said and done, here and there. So just bear with me. I'll try to keep the video short, and we'll go from there. Alright, so now we're ready to drop the tank, and I'm doing it on the ground, and I'm going to do it on the ground for a reason, because I hear a lot of things, or read a lot of things on forums, or group chats and that kind of thing, of you have to lift the car up in the air, you got to put it on jack stands in order to get the tank out. And if you're a bigger guy, that might be true, although as long as you can get your arm under, I think you could do it. So I'm going to do it on the ground because I have Megan V2 coils set to almost the lowest setting they can go on my car. So it's pretty low. Are there Corollas out there that are lower? Yeah, sure, but not by much and not very many. So if I can do it on my car, you can do it on your car. A lot of people get scared about dropping the tank. It's really not that bad, especially on OEM, like I talked about earlier. It's got a drain plug. So as long as you've got something that can hold 10 gallons of fuel, it's not that big of a deal. It really isn't. People overthink it. So I'm going to do it on the ground to show you that it can be done. What you're going to need is you're going to need a 3/8 socket wrench with a long extension. This is probably about a foot or a 10-inch extension. And you don't need a deep socket. This is just the one I found, but it also helps me reach the bolt. There's going to be a bolt side of each strap that holds the gas tank, and they are on the rear axle side of the gas tank, so closer to the middle of the car. And it just helps because you can just shove it up there and get to it. If you're low, or if you have a beefier panhard bar, you might find that the panhard bar is kind of in the way, and in which case you can try to go a shorter extension and work above it, but really if you just get a longer extension and just kind of push against the bar, it'll come out. Don't worry about too much, it'll come out. And then you're going to need a pair of needle nose pliers for this pin right here. This pin is the other side of the strap, and you just grab the pin from where it's it's the same direction as the pin itself, but it's 90 degrees from the clip, so it's like the bottom portion of an L, capital L. What you're going to want to do is you're just going to grab that and pull it down. Seriously, it's that easy. They should come out that easy. And they pop in that easy too. So that's how you get the other end of them out. But a tip is always make sure you spin the pin. It might be, if it hasn't been a while since it's been pulled, the pin might be tough to move. You know, you get a pair of pliers on it. But rotate the pin in the strap so that this is basically an upright sitting L. So the part that you're going to pull down is parallel to the ground, and then it turns perpendicular through the pin, and then you're just going to pull straight down. And that's the easiest way. If you do it some other ways, you can pull it out, but you might like pull it into the tank, and then you don't have enough room to pull it all the way out of the pin. So just, that's the easiest way. Plus you get more leverage, just pull it straight down. So now that I've talked you through it, we're going to take some clips of me doing it, and we will get the gas tank dropped. Alright, so I am by no means the biggest guy in the world, but I'm not the smallest either. I've got a little weight on me that I'm not proud of, so I can fit under the car on the ground. I have a low car. If you can't, you need to jack the car up just enough that you can slide underneath the gas tank, in my opinion. The lower the car is to the ground, the easier it makes this whole process. Right next to the Panhard support mount. Let's see if I can move my fat finger out of the way if you can see that, but it's right here. That is the other bolt that you have to get under the straps. So I come under here with my 14mm extension, and I come back here with my my 1/4" drive socket with a I think it's an 8mm socket for those two small fuel lines, and then I bring a 17 and a 14mm wrench under the car with me. Now, it is ideal that you use line wrenches. Trust me, you don't want to strip these lines out. You'll hate yourself for that. So use line wrenches. I don't have them currently, so I'm going to use regular wrenches, but trust me on this. Mine have been taken apart recently, so I know I can get them. If yours haven't been and they're factory sealed, they're going to be a little bit difficult to get off because they've never moved in 20, 30, 40 years. It's like 33 years. So, you know, use line wrenches. If you don't have a set, invest in them. They're not that expensive. Even if you get really cheap ones from like AutoZone or something, I mean, you're talking like 20 bucks. Trust me, it's worth it. Trust me. So, crack those lines off first. I usually start with the feed and then do the two smaller ones because they come off easier. Then I loosen the 2 bolts out of the straps here. The tank is already supported by a jack. Once these straps are loose, I slide out of the car, and then I take the pins out of the front. Now I pull the straps out, and then I can lower the gas tank. The other thing you have to worry about when you lower the gas tank is you're going to have it disconnected up top. So you're going to have to unclip the harness from both the fuel sender and the fuel pump. And if you have a car with interior, you're going to have to, pull the carpet up to do that, but you might have those rubber gaskets that will kind of snag. So you're going to want to fish them through that too before you start lowering the tank. That way you're not snagging anything. That's the reason we're separating this. We want to separate the fuel lines from the hard fuel lines, and we want to separate the electrical connections too, so that when we drop the tank, there's no more connection to the car, and it just comes down without damaging anything. Then you can slide the whole tank out, and you can pull your fuel pump out, you can pull your fuel sender out, you can pull the fuel neck out if you're using an OEM tank, like what we're taking out of this. So let me go ahead and do that, and then we'll take some B-roll of me removing the bolts and moving the tank. Alright, so this is a Warburg 255 kit. This is kit GSS 341. If you get that kit, that will bolt directly into the AE86 bracket, no problem. So this is pretty much how it looks when you get the kit. It also comes with a couple little connectors if you want to cut these wires and connector them. I recommend you're going to do the new ring terminals on the harness and then rivet them in like I did. That is here. And then as long as you continue to run this kit, you can just undo the harness plug. Look at that. And then you can just save this one as a spare and just get the kit and replace everything else. As you can see, the old one is covered in rust, and they keep cavitating, and it's not pulling in enough fuel through this to supply the pump, and it's running dry and misfiring. So I could probably just replace this net, but this pump's already ran dry a lot, so I don't trust it anymore, and it's cheap enough just to replace it. So I'm just going to do it. I'm not going to risk it. It also has contaminants in it, so I don't want to push any more contaminants up. I want to just filter what's in there and filter what's in the return, and then try to avoid getting any rust contaminants anywhere in the system. I want to try to get it all out as much as I can. So that's going, filter's going, and then it's going to be all new in the brand new tank. So we'll do that install. That was tricky. Do a little rubber piece. Since we're replacing it anyway, I went ahead and cut that off. Alright, so they give you a piece of hose, but if you measure it out, it's kind of long. So I'm going to take a little bit off, just so I don't have to push as much hose up. And then I found it's easier to go on the bracket first. So now it's all the way up there. We'll go and clamp it down. So go ahead and clamp it down. And we'll slide our other one along with our fuel pump on the hose. So you can bend it here, like perpendicular, and get the pump on really easy. And then just clamp down the other one. So my hand's probably right in the way. Put on your rubber boot here, and this just kind of pushes up and in. Like so. Alright, and with the pump over here at the car, remember that the lines go towards the front of the car. So, looking at the tank, if the gas door's over here, that means the front is this way, it's down. So, and also, these holes are not symmetrical, so you really can only get it bolted in one way, but it also obviously helps if you can just drop it into position. So. Just the same way. Take a little tank out, tilt it in, get the filler tube where you want it. There we go. And then now would be a good time to do your fuel connections.
Alright, so I like to go ahead and do your fuel line connections here while the tank is on the ground. And that's why I say leave the car on the ground, because it's easier. You can get to everything, you can reach it, but you're also not going to stress it out. It's a good distance. So go ahead and do your fuel connections here, and then slide in your jack and lift your tank up on your jack and start lifting her up. Alright, make sure you pull your harnesses up through the body before you get the tank all the way up, because you'll get them trapped in there. So just make sure they're clear, and then continue jacking the car up. Or the tank up, sorry. Alright, now I've got the tank up, time to put the straps on. Now I know it doesn't look like it, but the straps are different. So the one that goes on the left, so see towards the driver's side of the car, is actually the longer one. So make sure you're not crazy, there is a longer one. Put that on the driver's side. The passenger side, closest to the gas door, gets the short one. But they go in just the same way. Took them out with a pin. Put the little safety cotter pin in there. And then same with this one over here. Boom. We'll bolt them in. Alright, so I got them started off camera because they're a Royal. But here we go. Now we got the pins in and the bolt started. We can go ahead and start. Make sure you torque those down because, I mean, they hold your gas tank in, kind of important.